What is up, everybody? One of one interviews. I'm Steven. I got my boy Pete here. Super excited today because we're branching out from what I normally do, which is football, to something that I love since I was a kid, and literally know nothing about except I keep wasting my money on the wrong things, comic books. So I'm super pumped. We got Pete from Chill Comics here. Pete, real quick, just give me a brief overview about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I'm an online only comic book dealer. I don't sell new issues. I sell only back issues. So I don't get like weeklies in and sell them like that stuff that's coming out weekly. It's all older stuff. I do sell newer stuff, but like nothing that comes out like like you can go to the comic shop and get a new comic. I don't sell any of that.
Okay,
Just back
right on.
issues.
So, how did you first get into comic books as a whole?
Yeah, so I basically like the X-Men cartoon in the 90s got me, like, loving the characters. You ask any, like, 30, 40-year-olds who their favorite character are, I mean, most of the time, it's, like, Wolverine, Gambit. That's what happened to me. I love those characters and got me interested in comic books and seeing, like, their stories and stuff like that. So, I was more focused on, like, the art over the story, but, I always like to, like, draw, trace the comic book characters, stuff like that, but that's what really got me into it was, like, the '90s cartoons.
No, I'm very similar. I got into it. Marvel cards. I was like in fourth or
Oh,
fifth
yeah.
grade, and like I saw this Fin Fang Foom card, and I'm like, dude, this I've never heard of this giant green dragon. But the drawing was so sick, and I used to draw. So, do you still draw at all, or do you trace
Not
at all? Do
much,
you?
not much.
No,
My son is a pretty good artist, but, my parents always pushed me into it more, but he's actually pretty good, but, he doesn't seem like he's, like, kinda into it as I kinda fell out of it too, I knew I was never, like, that good. I wasn't an artist, but,
right,
like, I had a little bit of talent, but nothing like, I knew I wasn't, like, super talented like some people, you know what I mean?
right on. No, I dig it. I'm the same way, man. But it was enough to get me hooked into it because it's super sweet. So, when did you even realize that comics can go from like a hobby or something that you look at to something more?
Man, so I was like a collector. I was a big comic collector first. And late teens, early 20s, started getting money, was able to start buying stuff. And I was always like quality over quantity. And I remember what really got me into selling on eBay was, and I know the date because I know it's when I set up my eBay account. It was 2008. I had like two short boxes, like around like 200 comics. And I went in to sell it to my local comic shop. I probably need like beer money or something like that, dude. It was like, it wasn't, I didn't need the money, but I was like, I'm done with comics. I'm into girls now. And so I took it in there. I remember saying to myself before I walked in, I'm like, okay, if he gives me 500 bucks for these, I'm going to take it and I'm going to be happy with it, even though I knew they were worth much more. Like I had Justice League 1 through 9. Now they were trashed, but yeah, they were still valuable. Even in 2008, they were still worth some money. And the owner offered me 125 bucks for the two short boxes. And at that time, I was just like, dude, I'm not going to sell these for 125 bucks. So that's when I opened my eBay account and I ended up selling it for like 1,500 bucks, my personal collection. I got out of comics. And after I sold them, it was all auction style too back then. I was always doing
Right.
auctions. And I got 1,500 bucks and I was just like, dang, man, I can sell comics like my passion, like what I love and make money and still like collect, comics in, like look at them, read them, do stuff that I, like, admire the drawing and stuff like that. And I just started going from there. I started buying more, started collecting more, and then obviously I just kind of get bored with stuff, and then I want new stuff, and it just kind of I started basically funding my personal collection by selling comics,
Yeah.
and then it just kept snowballing from there. Where I started, okay, well let me get more riskier. I got more money now. Let me buy more stuff, and
So
that's kind of what.
when you say get riskier, are you talking about like maybe a higher end comic?
Yeah, yeah, like buying, bigger collections, because like when you start buying and selling, especially in your early 20s, you don't have a ton of money. You got to start small. It's
Right.
you don't want to take out, debt on inventory really
Sure. Sure.
at that time because you're always trying to to flip it super fast
Yeah,
to get that money back, pay it off. So I was trying to always just like spend within my means at the time. And you can't grow really fast like that, but you don't get yourself into trouble on, debt and stuff like that.
sure. So how much time at that time early on in the inception, were you spending like a week, you know, hunting, buying, selling, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff?
so back then is when I would do like garage sales, estate sales, Goodwill, stuff like that. And honestly, even before I started selling comics, me and my buddy Jeremy, we kind of partnered up and we were selling random stuff, dude. I mean, we worked together and we'd be in the break room, and it's gonna show my age a little bit, but like we were looking like the classified ads in the newspapers. And we were buying like ridiculous stuff that we anything we could flip, we were buying. But like I wasn't
Sure.
passionate about that. You know what I mean? I wasn't like, yeah, it was cool making some extra money doing that, but it wasn't like it wasn't something that I loved doing. I remember one time we bought a Coach purse through the newspaper classified ads, and we flipped it for like, I don't know, we made like $40 on it. And we were all happy about that. But like
For sure.
as far as like
Was it
what's
even
that?
a coach though? Was it even a real coach
Yeah,
though?
yeah. I mean, who knows, honestly, but
Right?
we were just trying to flip everything we could, man.
For
But
sure.
estate sales, garage sales, Goodwill, thrifting, stuff like that. That's what I was kind of like into more so than like solely focused on comics. So I kind of knew the whole reselling aspect of things even before, I started selling comics on eBay. But so
Right. Right
yeah.
on. How did it go from, like a part-time or even just selling trinkets that you find at your local yard sale to, I'm gonna focus on comics, and like, how did the scale happen?
Just honestly, what it was just me being passionate about it. It was something that I really like to do. So it turned into like, obviously it was a hobby for me. So like it didn't feel like work for me. You know what I mean? It felt like I was doing something that I love to do. So it didn't feel like, even though I'm working a full-time job and I'm doing this on the side, working probably, 80 hours a week between the two, it felt like it was like, like it wasn't work. And that was the best part about it for me. But, it was a side gig for a long time for me.
Mhm.
I worked at the same company for 20 years. I always had that. I thought I was going to retire from there. But, and this was always my side gig that kind of gave me extra money to do things like, I bought, my wife's engagement ring with comic money, basically.
Right.
I did lots of things for our first house with, the money I made from comics and stuff like that. So,
For sure.
um, the whole business aspect, though, like I wish I had a kid come into my shop today. He's 19 years old. He sells clothing. I'm not kidding. This happened today. He's 19 years old, and he was like, "Hey, man, I just want to know what you're doing." And he was like, "I buy clothing at like Goodwill, stuff like that, and resell it." And I was telling him, "Dude, I wish I had your like the business mindset that you have right now that I had at 19, because I didn't have that. I didn't think of it as a business. I just thought of it as like extra money. You know what I mean?"
Right.
But like the whole business, like my thinking in business came in like 2015. That's when I kind of like really was like, okay, let's see how far this can take me. Obviously, even at that time, I wasn't thinking this could be my career. You know what I mean? I was
Sure.
still thinking, okay, I can still make a lot more money. Me and my wife could get a better house. We can do other things, go on vacation, stuff like that with that kind of money. And the money I'm making from what I was doing, I was cutting meat. That just goes for the everyday bills and everything like that. So this is just kind of like the extra stuff that we can do with this. I didn't think of it as a business until around 2015 when I started like listing a lot more, being consistent on listing, and that's super important for me.
So what would you say, like, was, an average amount? I don't know if you would track it weekly or monthly, but, like, from when it was more like a side gig to 2015 comes around and you're doing more, like, what's the numbers approximately from what to what?
Yeah, man. Like before 2020, I had never done like six figures in sales, like never. You know what I mean? But I was just basically, like I said, it was just extra money. If I was making 20 grand a year off of selling comics, that was good for me. You know what I mean? I was happy with
Yeah.
that as a side gig. That was great. But um Yeah, basically what happened was after my kids kinda got out of the baby stage, my business, I was able to really just focus up and start really thinking, "Okay, this could turn into something."
Right. Right on. So while you're scaling up, I kind of think about it because I laugh because we've known each other for a long time. Our
Yeah.
wives are really good friends.
Mhm.
And it's I I never even thought about it like well over a decade ago. We'd go to your house and at a barbecue, and some talk about comics would come up, and I wouldn't even think about it. I was into football cards, but not like I am now.
Yeah.
Um, but like I just never thought about it. And I remember seeing sometimes like just your just storage boxes and tons of stuff. And I remember asking, and then I just dismissed it and didn't
Yeah.
think about it. And
Right.
I remember telling Bree, and she that's my wife, you guys, and she was like, yeah, he sells a lot. And
Mhm.
his wife said that, he's scaling it up so much. So how did your wife feel as you started to scale? Because I know the idea of I don't know if I'm gonna stay at this safe place anymore being your career.
Yeah.
How'd that all go with like the family dynamics, and like did she tell you you're an idiot, or did she say
Yeah.
follow your
Mm.
dreams?
I've been so lucky with Jen, honestly. She's gonna watch this and be like, "Oh," but no, like, one of the biggest things is just having support from your spouse or, if your parents or whoever, you know what I mean? She's never once complained about comics being everywhere. She's never once said anything to me about, like, they're annoying or anything like that, or you need to do something else, and that's just been huge for me, honestly. Like, I can't imagine, like, having a significant other that's like, putting what you're doing down, and, that would obviously, take away from what you're doing and everything like that. So I've always had a huge, strong support system from her with that, which has made it a lot easier on me.
Awesome, man. That is good, and she is probably gonna cry. Um, and that's awesome.
She
So
knows.
were you always going by Chill Comics, or did
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
that was
dude, I
always
started
it?
chill I was Chill Comics, like, when I turned it into, like, a business, like I said, around 2015, it is like, one day I was just like, I at first it was like, "What?" Jen, my wife, "What are you doing? Chill Comics? What is that?" And we kinda came up with other ideas, and I was just like, "I'm sticking with Chill Comics." I like it. I mean, I know it's different, but, it's for no reason at all, at all. I was just like, I wanna be called Chill Comics, and that's it. And it's funny when I get messages from people like, "Hey, Chill, what's up?" And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I just think like, okay, I don't even, it makes me laugh every time someone calls me Chill, because, like, I don't even think about it. Like, it's just,
Yep.
I've just
That's
always been Chill Comics. I don't know.
dude, that's awesome. So,
Yeah.
how did so like what are some of the like okay, when did you officially quit your job?
Okay, yeah. So 2.5 years ago, I was able to quit my job full time. But before that, I probably could have quit like 2 years earlier. But like, I wanted to make sure that my send off, I didn't want to, like, like, sink as soon as I quit my job. You know what I mean? I wanted to
Sure.
make sure that I was making more than what I was making at my full time job before I quit my job. So I knew the bills were going to be paid, everything was going to be good there. And like I said, dude, I honestly could have quit probably 2, maybe even 3 years earlier, than what I actually did, because at the end, man, it was brutal how much I was working. And, with 2 young kids, it was just like, man, this is a lot. I don't wanna take away time from them,
Right.
but, I was, spending pretty much all my free time doing, the comic thing, and,
Yeah, for
you know
sure. So as you scale up in this, as you're going to it, probably approaching the leaving of your career, what are some of like the growing pains that you might have went through? Like, do you ever have any inventory issues? Like, obviously, time's always an issue, especially with little ones. But
Mhm.
cash flow, finding stuff, or like, talk to me about like, so for example, I'm always constantly hunting cards. I'm always trying to buy. The way it works for us is we take the comps. I usually offer in the ballpark of 80%. It could be higher, it could be lower, depends on how many I'm buying, et cetera, et cetera. If they're not graded, I am taking a risk on the word of the seller. And I've been burnt a lot of times because I don't just buy through eBay, where it came back and the card's trashed, and I can't sell that because or I got to sell it for a major loss. Like, what's some of the pitfalls or some of the challenges that you've run across, and how do you navigate that stuff?
Yeah, early on, it's just cash flow. Having a bankroll is the biggest thing, for me. When you're early on, you don't have a cash flow. You can't, you can't. You have to let some opportunities pass you. But when you have a bankroll, you can do whatever you want without it affecting your life. You can spend thousands of dollars. Like if you have that, you're pretty much set. Like I'm a different kind of seller than most people though, but with the cash flow thing is just by far the most important thing of sourcing inventory, for
Sure.
sure. And I get inventory from all over the place. It's when you kind of build your brand up, you get a lot of people reaching out to you, which is nice. There's a couple Facebook market or not marketplace, Facebook Ohio comic groups that I mean every couple months I basically just throw in, hey, I'm buying collections. I've purchased multiple five-figure collections out of this group, and every single time I post on there, I get a couple collections. And so anytime I'm like kind of like, okay, I'm running a little bit low on inventory. I better, kind of like stock up because I like to be a month ahead. So I like to have a month of inventory that I can list for a month where I don't have to buy a single thing if nothing came up, I didn't need it. So I always am like staying ahead of the whole inventory thing.
All right, so let's get into that. So when you say staying ahead of inventory, what kind of numbers are we talking about to stay ahead? Like, how much do you need to list? How much
Yeah.
do you list? How does that work?
Yeah, okay, so I list 40 items a day. That's not 40 comics, that's 40 listings, eBay listings every day, 7 days a week. Um, so, you can do the math on that. I need over 1,000 things a month pretty much to basically be able to list and keep my store going at the pace it's at right now. Um, yeah, so like 40 a day, and I was doing like 30 a day, in early 2025, but I jumped it up to 40 once both my kids kind of went to school full time. I work a lot while they're in school and everything like that. So that's the time that I work the most now. But I'm always trying to stay ahead of inventory. I'm always sourcing. I mean, that's like the fun part for me. I love it so much. That's like what makes me like happy with this business is just
Right.
finding stuff, getting comics I've never had. I think that's so cool.
How do you go about, like, so I know for me, quality pictures are the world. Do you do most, I mean, so you do most of your sales on eBay as a listing, not as an auction, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so
I'm a
like,
buy it now seller.
okay. So, well, God, that brings up a lot of stuff that I was curious about. So, but so I mean, a lot of your time's got to be the prep and listing part of it all, right? I mean,
Yeah, okay, so I'll give you kind of a breakdown of my day. 7 days a week, Steve. 7 days a week, this is what I do. I wake up at 5 AM 7 days a week. I list 25 comics, single comics at my house every morning before my kids wake up. So then when they wake up, I get them ready for school and everything like that, send them off to school. So 25 items are already listed before they even wake up. And those are single comics. All single comics I sell at my house. I do have a shop. It's not open to the public. It's just a shop that it's basically this 700 square foot little small, I call it like a warehouse office space. That's where all my inventory goes. That's in lots, sets, and mini series, stuff that there's a lot of. Like in my office right now, I have all single comics. All my single stuff is here. At my shop is all my lots, stuff like that. And I list 15 a day there. But at the shop, what I do, I only list at the shop like 3 days a week. And I do like scheduled ahead. So like right now, this morning I was working on, I think I'm already on like January 20th or something like that. So like
gotcha.
I have 15 listings going out every single day there that I don't even have to list for the next 2 weeks there if I didn't want to. But I always want to stay like 10 days ahead there. Whereas at home, I'm listing for today.
That is genius. Um, it really is. Just, I mean, I when I was doing social media for different companies, that was always a goal, is to be ahead with posts. Sometimes it doesn't work, especially in that kind of gig, but I get it. So you've got a shop, but you
Mhm.
do all your online sales. Why don't you sell anything out of the shop just because it's a storage locker? Or I mean, you ever thought about making it
Yeah.
a place where you could do that there and still have walk-ins and sell?
Yeah, this is bad to even say. I don't wanna deal with the public, Steve. I basically, I was a meat cutter. I had to deal with the public for 20 years, and, I just want people to buy my stuff, I don't wanna, like, have to sell you something, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
I want the
Yeah.
money to come to me, I don't wanna chase the money. And there's also another thing that, like, in my store, I try to stay at $10 or above on all my listings. And, like,
Okay.
new comics are, like, 4 or $5. I don't wanna have to deal with that, ordering them every week. You order 20 of one book and say only 5 sell that week. Okay, what am I gonna do with these 15 comics? You know what I mean?
Sure.
You're gonna eat
Sure.
that money, or you're gonna have to, sell it eventually, years down the line. It's just something that I don't wanna deal with, selling weekly comics, having that weekly big bill, from the distributor and everything like that. I don't wanna have to deal with that, and that's the biggest thing. I don't want people coming into my shop and looking through my books and stuff like that. I just want people to, like, know that I'm a trusted seller online. They know what they're gonna get. They know my grading's right, and, that's what I want, you know? I don't wanna have to sell people anything.
When you say your grading's right, like, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm basically like, I'm an established seller. If I have 16,000 plus feedback on my eBay store, you know what I mean? So, like, people can look and see, what my feedback is, and they know that I'm grading right. I never get any negative feedbacks for something that I graded wrong, really. I'm not saying I'm perfect at all, but, like, if I say I missed something, say, like I'll just admit this, like last week there was a comic that there was a little, mouse chew on a couple of the pages on the inside of the book that I missed, and, the guy, contacted me, reached out, and he said, "Hey, did you see that?" I said, "I'm sorry, man, I missed this. Go ahead, send this back. It's completely my fault." I said, "If you wanna keep the book, I'll give you a partial refund. If you want a full refund, send it back. I'm so sorry about that. That's my fault." I take accountability on anything that I make a mistake on because it's just me. I know that it's not an employee that I have. I know that I made the mistake, and, I'm gonna correct it every single time. But I think once you get to a point, with grading, um, and you people trust your grading and stuff like that. And I'm always a little bit stricter, especially when selling on eBay, because everybody's grading is different. So I'm always a little bit on the stricter side. And when people get something, they're like, "Wow, this graded better than what he said." I'm happy with that. You know what I mean?
So you mean more like a, for us is like it's gonna be a PSA 10 or it's AIDS. So if I say this card will gem, that means
Mhm.
it should get a 10. So for you guys, it's like let's say this is a comic book and you're
Mhm.
like, this is a 7. You want it to be a 7, 8, 9, whatever. Am I understanding that? Because I
Yeah,
know it's a
yeah.
little different for how you guys do it.
Yeah, so in our world, it's 9.8 is what you wanna get. I'll never guarantee a 9.8 ever. Even if it is a 9.8, I won't guarantee it, and I've had people reach out multiple times saying, "Hey, I sent that book in, it's a 9.8," but I will guarantee something 9.4, and that's near mint, in our world. So,
Mhm.
and that's the best part about it is once you start kinda grading the way that I grade, it's people start realizing that, and I have a big return rate on customers, which is nice. So, um yeah, it's kind of nice.
It does do comic books? I know for sports cards, certain series or let's say Panini Prism of a certain year, they have a little grace on centering left to right, or we know that certain die cuts, there or patch cards especially, they're not going to grade well or thick
Mhm.
cards. Is there like a vibe to comic books like these certain series? They all were jacked up with something, or
Yeah,
these were all kind of off centered. Is that common there?
yeah, definitely. As far as comics go, like, being off center, like it's called miswrap. Like, it's when it's wrapped like kind of wrong off. That doesn't really affect the grade like it does in cards. Cards, it's like bad. That affects
Yeah.
the grade. Comics, it's they kind of overlook that a little bit.
So, do you think, as a seller, I mean, obviously, your feedback on eBay or feedback anywhere, your name as a businessman means the world. What are some reasons that you think that like comic book sellers or just hobby related sellers kind of do well than just flame out?
Like, can you elaborate on that? I'm sorry.
Like, so what would so like I'm sure in your I know for me, like today, there's gonna be 20 guys that are just killing it with their cards. And I promise you next month, there'll be 7.
Yeah,
Like, 13 of them dudes are gone. Like, so
yeah,
what are
yeah,
some of the reasons why with you guys fall apart? Or is it something that,
yeah.
once you're into it and rolling, you stay with it?
It's FOMO. FOMO's big in the comic game, the hot book of the week. People like that who are only after that kind of stuff, they seem to kind of flame out a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, like there's in comics, it's just like cards, like there's hot things that happen. A movie gets announced, a TV show gets announced, a
Sure.
comic related, those go up in value, but they normally always drop value. I mean, but there are also, some circumstances where they stay hot. And there's a bunch of titles like that, but people do chase those FOMO books a lot. I just stay the course, man. If I get something hot in a collection, sweet. If I don't, I'm not gonna really chase like the hot product at the time because like, when you're chasing it when it's hot, that's when it's at its highest.
Sure.
But for me, it
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
make sense.
it's time to sell, not the time to buy.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. So would you say like online is also your best source these days of inventory?
By far.
By far. Right
By
on.
far. Yeah, it's all about knowledge on that kind of stuff because you gotta there's a lot of people like me out there, and I'm sure it's even more in the card world. You gotta know sometimes you only get split seconds to buy something, obviously
Right.
newly listed item comes up. You got to know the pricing on that, especially if they're like lots or a collection or something like that. You got to know when to pull the trigger right away if it's worth it. And that's just people selling like, it's just people selling knowing that other people can make money. I do it myself, like with stuff I'm not interested in. There's been sports cards, there's been toys collections, stuff like that, where I know I can, put it in my eBay store and stuff like that. I don't want to. So I'll give it to somebody else who's going to do the same thing that I'm doing with comics. And people do that with comics all the time. They just don't want to take the time to break down the stuff and sell
Yeah.
it individually or put it in runs or lots or stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, that's definitely a lot to it. So, um, how much time do you spend shipping? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I get like really anxious with shipping, so I ship 3 different times a day. So I
Oof.
wake up, I ship my orders at my house, what's sold overnight. I go to the shop, I ship those orders. And then before bed, I normally try to at least ship, what's at my house and everything like that. So basically, I'm breaking it down into like, okay, I got to ship 10 orders here, 12 orders here, 5 orders here, instead of, oh, I got to ship 30, 40 orders at once. I always feel like that puts me behind in the morning. So like,
Mm,
waking up at 5, I got 2 hours to ship and list those 25 items before my kids wake up. And, if I can't do that if I got to ship 30 orders, you know what I mean?
right.
So
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
break it up. I break it up. And post office has to hate me. Though I mean, dude, I go in every single day holding, let me see here, holding, 30, 40 of these, you
Yeah,
know, in my arms. They hate to see me coming. I guarantee it, but they're always good to me. They like me there. But I guarantee they talk about me behind my back.
oh, here he comes again. Here he
Yeah.
comes, this motherfucker.
I be
Yeah.
making 2, 3 trips in 7 days a week, Steve. Even on Sundays, I drop off. I jam their drop off box half the time. And Monday morning, they probably come in. They're like, "Man, this guy again!" Like
You gotta
it's
drop him some
nonstop, man.
Starbucks gift cards and stuff every
I
once in a
actually I
while.
buy them donuts every year. I get like 4 dozen donuts from the local shop and bring it in. Just write a note like I appreciate you guys because I really do. They've never lost a single package of mine
That's
or
phenomenal.
anything like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, but
That's huge, man. That I try to keep it not to your level, man, not even close, but I'm at our post office often and they sure are nice to my face. I don't know what they say, but I know I'm not the worst because everybody's selling something, and I see the
yeah,
same folks, all the
yeah,
time there,
yeah,
and
yep.
like they kind of do the little peek on like what kind of packages are you, and I'm like, oh look at my shit, man.
I've
But
been asked many times dropping stuff off. What are you selling? Many times.
right,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure, man. I don't like that. That makes me nervous because I'm sure it's the same with you guys, but man, it's just man, sports cards is it's like growing up in boxing gyms, man, it's just full of dirtbags, dude. It I can't believe this is, like, supposed to be cool, and, you guys are nothing but dirt. Not everybody, but, you just see it a
No, I
lot.
get it. Yeah,
So
yeah, right.
so so you said you like buying lots, and how does one go to determine value? I know I look at I don't know nothing about comics except your
Mhm.
obvious, your DC,
Yeah.
your Marvel stuff. I know if it's an old Superman, it's probably dope. I know if it's Spider-Man, but all the main stuff. But like I've seen some of the stuff you sell,
Mhm.
and I've never heard of anything like this, especially some of like the crazy stuff,
No, yeah,
that
yeah,
I've
right.
seen, and I'm like, how do you even tell what this is worth? Is this eBay comp driven only? Is there like a Beckett for comic books or
Well, dude, it's all about knowledge. Now, I'll give you a tip, and anybody listening out there, honestly, this is what I did for years. I would go to eBay, and like the vintage comics and stuff like that. It's pretty easy to remember. Like the vintage, anything like 80s and past. I mean, you kind of know the keys, everything. Kind of, you know everything. But as far as modern goes, there's so many comics. So what I would do, and I'm Steve, I did this last week, man. I, for years, like, spend 20 minutes a day. I would go to eBay, filter sold listings from $10 to $50 listings sold. And then I would filter even more to modern age. I don't even know if you can do it to modern age anymore, honestly. I think they might have taken that out, but I'd filter it to modern, which is like, 1990 and newer. And I would just look at everything that sold that day. And you would start to see patterns of stuff that was selling, like, who knows, something like Lady Death. And you're like, oh, wow, okay, I need to look out for that issue. Here's another issue I've never even knew was a $40 book. And it was just gaining the knowledge day after day after day. It was just so repetitive. I would do it every single day because, like, I'm not really good at remembering stuff. I'm terrible at it. So, like, the repetition of just seeing stuff that's been sold daily, that really helped me honestly gain the knowledge. But as far as like collections go and stuff like that, a brief breakdown of kind of what I normally do is I like to buy collections that have a couple big books in it. So, for example, let's say I'm buying a $5,000. Somebody wants $5,000 for their collection, okay? And in that collection, there's a $2,000 book and a $500 book and a couple other good like $100 books. So right there, you already got 3 grand. So you're thinking, okay, what is that 2 grand that I'm spending on the rest gonna get me? And, if that adds up to, a decent amount where you think, okay, wow, I can do some damage on this. That's how I do it. I like to take out the big books, subtract it from the amount right off the top, and then kind of look at everything else.
so let's say let's just to make it even easier for slow people, who might be listening. Let's say you had a hundred uh comic book lot, and you're you end up with 94 that we got to figure out what we're going to make money on. Is there a certain dollar amount, like a dollar per, $2 per, $10 per, to kind of, is that your multiplier or your factor to figure if you make it? Is there a certain number?
Yeah, so like anything that's like $10 or more, it's gonna go in my store as a single. But I kind of sell a little bit differently than everybody else. Like in you see a lot of people selling like keys only, like, oh, I only want to sell these keys. I also like what my shop is for is kind of catering to the reader. And that's where I'm selling like the sets, the lots, same character kind of stuff like that. And that kind of stuff also goes in my eBay store because once you put 10 comics together, you're gonna get, 15, $20 out of that. You know what I mean? But
Sure.
that's one of the things that I feel like kind of separates me is I'm okay to list these lots that other people, might see as, oh, they're only $2, $3 books. I'm gonna lot them up and sell them for 20, $25 each. And as far as bulk goes, stuff that like I can't do anything with, that I'm not gonna list in my store or in my shop. I bulk out like 10 boxes at a time, which is around 3,000 comics. I have a guy named shout out to Neil. I text this guy, and like every time I have 10 long boxes to sell, I sell them to him for 500 bucks. Text him. I mean, within minutes, he's like, I'll be there Sunday to pick up. Every time I don't have to worry about all this because I have limited space. Like I said, I have 700 square foot little shop, and he comes every single time I text him. So he's doing the whole probably like flea market grind, you
Mhm.
know, if he's getting them for 20 cents each, he's selling them for a buck a piece, and he's making money too. So I'm
Sure.
kind of passing it on to him to do what he's doing.
Do you ever sell to whatnot sellers?
Not not very often, I don't think. I mean,
You don't
he
think, yeah.
might be doing that. I don't We don't really talk about what he does with them, honestly.
Sure.
He just picks it up. He asks how my family's doing, and then that's it. But
Dude,
great guy.
that's
I love
awesome.
the guy. He's awesome. Like, I don't have to worry about a thing. He comes to my house, and he lives like 45 minutes away, but every time it's just
How'd you
perfect.
find them?
I would sell bulk on Facebook Marketplace, and I found him a few years ago, and I sell him probably 10 long boxes every single month.
That's insane, man. I mean, I built relationships the same way. I learned, dude, so I lined a card in, I forget what room I was in, and the dude that won it, he messages me and I see his address and I'm like, you live in my allotment. Yeah, and we're talking about a room with like 10,000 people in it. Like the
Right,
odds of that
right.
are insane, right?
Yep.
On top of that, he was Audrina's teacher in middle school.
Oh, no way, that's
So
crazy.
yeah, so I'm like, hey, bro, I'm not shipping you this. And he messaged, but why not? And
I'm
I'm
gonna
like,
drop
cause
off.
yeah, and he's like, "What?" And then it made sense, and then so he ends up walking up to the house, with his dog, and we hung out, and it's cool. He
Yeah.
runs a whole trade night for the little kids
Oh, that's
at the
awesome.
other end of the llama. Yeah, and it's like, dude, what a small world,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
really is. Just wild. But I asked about Whatnot because I was wondering about Whatnot.
yeah.
When I was starting my journey on Whatnot, you also popped on for a
Yep,
while,
yep.
and I watched some of your shows, and I loved your shows. Why did you step away from it?
Yeah, man. So I did Whatnot for like 6 months, sold thousands of comics. It was mostly like adult stuff that, eBay won't let in their store, but I did sell other comics. But by the way, if you're selling any adult comics, that's like the best place to sell Whatnot because they sell quick and they sell for a good amount too. You saw some of the
Hmm.
amounts you could get for some of the stuff, but Whatnot started feeling like a job for me again, and I hated that. I hated like it was like I was like clocking in for work again, and that just every show, man, I got nervous before every show. It like almost ruined my day doing it. But I will say, like, if I ever get an employee, that's what they're going to be doing. They would be doing Whatnot. I still think that there's a purpose for Whatnot. Um, I still think, people who do business on Whatnot there's people who make killing on Whatnot,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh
it's
yeah.
just not for me. It's not the kind of seller that I am. So,
Yeah, I
I
dig it.
just don't like doing it.
Yeah, it's a grind and the people ask me all the time, "Why aren't you on Whatnot? You were crushing." I'm like, dude, exactly the same reasons. I didn't get nervous per se. I would sweat a lot because it gets hot under these ring lights, but I just, dude, I can't sit still for that. Like, I guess it's similar in a sense to how you do it. I haven't sold anything on eBay and any I sold 0 in 25. The
Okay.
year before I sold some, but it's just not my thing. But when I list something on Facebook, it's at my leisure-ish, like
Mhm.
that's not totally true, but it's just not the pressure of
Mhm.
Whatnot. And
Right.
I don't know, but I guess for long-term selling, eBay probably does make sense. Besides the adult comics, I mean, is do you think Whatnot's sustainable for comics in general?
Definitely, definitely. There's a lot of people who do it daily. I mean, it's for Whatnot for me and my like what I think about is like it's that $2 to $10 range that doesn't fit in my store, doesn't fit in the Lots miniseries. Like those are the kind of comics that I would put on there. But, other than that, I have no interest in ever doing it again, to be honest with you. And even
Right
like
on.
buying on there, like, I don't even like I don't like watching shows and buying stuff because it's like, okay, I don't know exactly when you're gonna do this comic that I want. It could be a half hour. I don't wanna sit here and watch you run an auction for 30 minutes before I finally get to the one that I want. I don't even watch one. I don't watch any live selling at all. I never source off of live selling ever, and I know a
Mm,
lot of people do source off of live selling to sell on eBay because
yeah,
you can get good.
I don't like doing it. I'm just because I can't look at the quality. I can't ask for updated pictures if I need to. Like, I need that stuff. Like, I
Yeah,
need to know at least that you're going to disclose obvious damage and it's priced at, that. I mean, so
right.
how do you avoid that if your best way is buying Is that something you're worried about? Is like if it's all trashed, or I mean, is it just price dependent?
What do you mean, like live selling?
No, 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 lot selling. So like if
Oh, lot selling.
you're not doing it live, but you're online, you're buying the vast majority of your stuff, but still, even in a picture, it's hard to tell. People lie, they don't
Yeah,
disclose things. Like,
yeah.
so how do you go about it?
I mean, you gotta take people's word sometimes, especially for as much as I buy. I buy a lot, Steve. Like, I buy a lot. So, I mean, if I get something in and it's, the picture wasn't, enough, or the description was off a little bit, I'll contact them. But it's not very often that I have to contact somebody and be like, "Hey, this book isn't what you said it was." You know what I mean? It's not
Mhm.
very often for me, honestly.
So you buy a lot, you sell a lot. If you wouldn't mind giving me a rough estimate, how much in sales did you do last year?
Yeah. So, 2025. So on eBay, this is including fees, shipping, taxes, advertise. This is like the big number that you see. That it's not actually the number that I made, but
Sure.
it was like $540,000 this year in sales, or in last year in sales. And basically my net sales were like 385,000. So that's what the 385,000 was actually like, went back to me in my checking account when I get paid out from eBay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think there's something wrong with the internet. Did you say over 300K in comic book sales?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Dude, that's
yeah,
killer. Are you
yeah.
wow. So, all right, dude, let's get into that. So, okay.
It was
Um,
mostly comics. There were some cards, some toys, random stuff, but like it was like 88 or 87% of my sales were comic books.
good grief. How much did it cost you to ship all of that?
I think it was like 50,000 in shipping. And that's
Nice.
off of the bigger number, you know what I
Sure.
mean? Like, yeah,
Of course.
so,
Yeah, we heard what you
yeah,
cleared, dude. That is mind blowing. How do you even buy supplies for that
yeah.
number for shipping?
Right, so we use Gemini mailers. I showed you earlier. It's these mailers. They're like 80 cents a piece. Um, I buy them directly from Gemini mailers. They're their own company. Every box is like, it's $100 for 135 of those mailers, but I get 10% off on the orders too as well. So I buy 5 or 6 of those boxes at a time when I need to restock. Right now it's kind of nice because I bought like super heavy before the end of the year, for tax purposes, trying to get, whatever. But I also buy like my graded mailers from there, and I've been buying my bags and boards from there too. It's kind of like your penny sleeves and top loaders. I buy
Right.
that kind of stuff from there as well. So they have a whole variety of stuff there that I can
Do
buy.
they didn't give you a referral code yet?
So it's funny, they could, they if I reached out and asked them, I would, but I use this guy on Instagram, low key specs. Shout out to you. I've been using his code for like 2 years, and I'm just like, why not? I'm just, I don't know if he gets some kind of kickback on it or whatever, but like, I just always use his code that he gave me a while back, and so,
Dude, that's awesome, man.
yeah, right,
So,
right.
so do you give yourself a monthly allowance for buying? Is that you have
No,
margins for each
no.
month, or
It's basically, if something falls in my plate, I'm gonna buy it 100%.
sick.
So,
That's awesome. So any kind of buying, selling, shipping mistakes, things that happened early on that you can give some advice to like new guys that to watch out for, think
yeah,
about.
dude, I lose money on everything single comics, I lose money, every single comic I lose on. So, like, I charge $6 for a single comic. I'm trying to break this down and make sense. I don't think a lot of people realize that you get your eBay fees come off of that too. So you charge $6 for shipping, but really it's going to be like, what, 540 is what
Mhm.
you're going to get for that shipping, because after the eBay fees. So right there, your shipping goes down to 540, and then the Gemini mailer costs 80 cents pretty much. So right there, it's like 460 is what I have left for actual postage. And right now with the holiday rates at the post office, you can't ship a single comic for under $4.90 right now. So
Right.
every single comic I sell, I'm losing money on, but I want to be competitive with the pricing, with the people who ship media mail, even though you're not supposed to ship media mail comics through media mail. I don't do that. I just want to be legit. I just want to be legit. And so yeah, I lose money everything I sell. You know, lots and stuff like that. I also lose money on, but it also depends on where it's going. Sometimes, you know, if it's going out west, I'm losing I'm losing over $1 pretty much every time.
Sure. So, but and this is where the quantity kicks into play, right? So you just
Mhm.
got to keep rolling.
Yeah, yeah, right, and I'm okay to lose, you know, a little bit of money on shipping as long as, you know, the I'm consistently selling stuff, you know what I mean? And
Mm.
I just like I said, I just wanna stay competitive with my shipping prices because you see people who have, like, you know, $4.50 for shipping, and I'm like, How are they doing that?" You know what I mean? And it just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense because, you know, if I'm losing 50 cents, you're gonna be losing $2 every time you ship a comic, you know? So I can't go down that low, but I think I've been at $6 for years now. And even 3, 4 years ago, you know, I really wasn't like I was never making money on shipping. I was always kind of breaking even. And, you know, I think that that's a huge misconception that people think that like, oh man, you're charging this much for shipping, you know, thinking I'm making money off of it when it's not. I'm not making anything, you know what I
Right.
mean? It's not like
It
I would never try to make money off of shipping.
it's totally a misconception. I mean, we
Mm.
run into that all the time. Do you use like thermal label printers, stuff like that, or how's
Yeah, yeah, I can't believe I didn't do this earlier. I for my whole until, like, early 2025, I didn't use a Rolo. And so I was printing paper, you know, taping it down, and that has been a godsend for me this year or last year. It was like, what was I thinking not doing
yeah,
this? I've always had an insane problem with printers. I hate printers. I hate setting them up. I hate that they break. I hate the ink process. I hate everything about it. I remember one time trying to set up a printer in my old house and it took like a day and they drive me nuts. So I don't like going to a Rolo printer has been like almost a game changer for me, especially with how many I ship a day, you know?
right. Wait till I make this your arch nemesis is gonna be a printer. You watch, it's gonna be sick, dude. It's you guys are gonna be
I still got my printer sitting there. It's just chilling, but like I don't ever use it unless I need it for some kind of form or something like that, you know?
you need to do the video just beating it down with a
Yeah, right.
baseball bat, dude.
Yep,
Um,
exactly.
do you, do you do any Pokemon stuff at all?
Dude, yeah. Well, the I talked about knowledge earlier, and I wish I was more knowledgeable in sports cards and in Pokemon. It's just I don't have the knowledge to try to like buy lots and stuff like that. There's people out there way smarter than me on that kind of stuff. So I know that I would do bad at that. But I did buy a high end Pokemon collection that came to me this year or last year, and, you know, an hour before the show, I just sold like a $3,600 card. Literally an hour before the show, I sold one. And I was like, dude, Pokemon and sports cards compared to like comics, it's insane, dude. The card world is so much crazier. This stuff sells so much faster. Like I'm a list it and forget it seller. Like I don't care when my stuff sells, right? I don't have any debt on my inventory. I could care less when it sells as long as it eventually sells, you know, and I'm consistently selling stuff. I'm fine with it. And I think that's a lot of people don't talk about like debt on inventory because there I know some dealers that have a lot of debt on their inventory and they're always trying to make their money back quick, quick, quick. I'm just, you know, I said it before in the show, man. I want the money to come to me. I don't want to chase the money.
For
So, you know,
sure.
as far as I go, list it, forget it. That's how I work. That's how I've always been, honestly.
Are there massive swings in comic book prices to like so for example, I was talking about this the other day. Patrick Mahomes has been consistently high, especially rookie cards.
Yeah,
That's where um all the money is. But then this season he was trash. Well, he wasn't trash, but the team was trash, and you're watching these Mahomes cards just fall, and then everybody's dumping because they're always ass backwards on this.
yeah.
And that's due to gameplay. Is there reasons why comic books would have a major swing?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, the movies, the TV shows are huge. New series are big. There's this comic called Absolute Batman right now. It's super hot. I mean, this comic came out I think 2024, late 2024. The first issue came out, a 9.8 selling for $400. Like you could have bought that, and it was like a 200,000 print run. I think it might maybe even higher. I forget exactly the print run. Might have been higher, but that was a comic people were buying for $6 when it came out, 1 year later, you grade it's a $400 comic right now, and they're selling every day. Like it's so hot right now. So series do matter. Like if readers get into it, if collectors get into it, because they're two different kind of people with comic collect. You got the collectors, you got the readers, and then you got both. You always get the people who kind of like they bicker back and forth of the people who slab stuff and the people who, oh, you should be reading that, why is it in a coffin, stuff like that. You're always going to have like two different kind of sides of collecting, but I really think that like the reader is kind of the king of what keeps comics going, to be honest with
And
you.
that's why you cater to them.
Yes,
I
definitely,
dig it.
100%. Yeah,
That's sweet.
yeah.
So Pokemon's a yes.
Yeah,
You do
Pokemon is I bought this collection, and it was like 400 cards. It was a high-end collection. It wasn't like bulk or anything like that. And I listed them all. And when I list comics, 40 comics a day, I don't like there's days that none of the newly listed stuff sells at all. Like I don't expect it to sell. But I was listing these Pokemon cards, and I was selling like 10 a day that I was listing that day. And that was like eye opening to me how much like more eyes are on cards than like comic books, you know what I mean?
do you list uh best offer?
Yeah, everything's best offer, but I limit it to like the most that you could offer is like 20% off. So like I'm sure my auto decline is probably just out of control with people
Yeah.
trying to send offers. And then I like to stay around 10% off. Honestly, that's what I every time someone reaches out to me like, hey, would you do $60 on this $100? And I write back a nice polite message saying, hey, at this time I want to stay around 10% off all my listings.
Right on. How much do you think the way you converse with buyers or potential buyers has an effect? I'm sure you've dealt with like cold responses from folks. Do you think that the way you do it does better for you?
For me, yeah, definitely. I know how to deal. I'm good at customer service. I know how to deal with people. Like I said, with my past history, where I was employed and stuff like that. So I know how to cater to people. I know what people want to hear. So I'm always polite. I'm always honest, and I just feel like that's just been the best way to do it. For me.
Right on. You you do any Marvel cards?
Yeah, so I don't look for Marvel cards, but I get them in collections sometimes. I did buy out Kenmore Comics sold their Marvel
I was
cards
gonna ask
back
you about that.
during COVID
Yeah.
when they were like insanely hot. I bought out his entire inventory. I mean, and we're talking like over 1,000 binders full. I mean, it was an insane find, Steve. I mean, it was crazy, and that did very well. But it also taught me a lot on those cards because didn't really have much prior experience with them. But
Right.
as if I get something in, I kind of dive headfirst into it and research and learn all I can. So like if an
Hmm.
opportunity comes up again like that, I'll have more knowledge on it.
That's where I'm at with Pokemon and One Piece right now. Dude, One Piece is insane, man.
Dude, I don't know
It
anything about One Piece at all. I don't know a single card or anything like that. I have no
It's
idea.
crazy, man. I heard it. I was at a show. I don't go to a lot of shows recently, but I just happened to be at one month or so ago, and Neo from Neo Cards was talking about it too. And these kids, that's all they're looking for. So I started looking. I'm like, damn, why are these kids looking for these cards? They're a little risque.
Oh,
I think
really?
they're sick, dude. No, I mean, I wouldn't want I wouldn't give them to your kids. Let's
Yeah.
just put it that way.
Hmm.
But I wish I had some close I could show you, but they're dope, man. They're like
Yeah.
Pokemon meets like DC kind of dark vibe. It's pretty
Right.
sweet. So like I've been getting into it, and I'm so burnt out on football cards, dude. It's become
Are
such a
you?
job. We're doing so much with this room, and like it's awesome, but like it's all the time, and I don't have
Mhm.
fun just opening things, and that's
Yeah.
what it was always about. So like now I'm just buying Pokemon when I see it, and I don't know
Yeah.
what the hell. Oh, I didn't know what I was looking for. Now I'm getting better, but like it's just fun. I feel
Mhm.
like a kid again. So
Yeah, that's
I don't know.
awesome.
So do you see a lot of crossover between comic collectors and cards, or do they feel pretty divided?
Somewhat, somewhat. I mean, early '90s, they kind of went hand in hand, comics and cards. But I think, as time went on through the 2000s, comics kind of it was more focused on comics. The Marvel cards were still, and some of those cards during the early 2010s, like the precious metal gems, stuff like that. The reason why they're so expensive is because people weren't into it as much as, they are now and everything like that. So, yeah, I mean, I I'd probably say every 5 collections I get, there's some cards included in them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you go downstairs and I've got a, copious amounts of cards, and there are comics in there. It's just
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know much about them, but
Right,
all
right,
right.
right.
So let's get into my favorite part. I haven't done one of these in a while. I do this thing called it's flash or fact. So basically, I'm going to ask you a question or give you a phrase, and it's just like true or false. So fact is fact,
Okay.
flash is fake. So flash or fact kind of thing. So it's pretty basic. So brought to us by my dudes at Enigma Trading Company. The Fire Repacks. They do Pokemon. They do football. They do basketball. They do all the good shit. But also they sell supplies. So repackers, go to ripenigma.com, get your stuff. They got the prices. So flash or fact, the Chill Comics Pete edition. Raw comics are better than slabs.
Fact,
Okay. Buying collections is always better than buying singles.
fact,
All right. Live selling is dying for comics.
flash.
All right. Conditions of the comic books matter more than the character.
Oh, man, nah,
Ooh, got
I'd
him.
say character. Character is definitely better. I mean, because like you get a comic nobody cares about that's in mint condition, like who cares? You know what I mean? So
Sure.
yeah, I'd say for sure character,
All
definitely.
right. Flash or fact, do you think most people overpay when they're buying collections?
Mm, flash. I mean,
Right
there's
on.
all you can, dude. Like when you buy collections, it's the way you break it down. Honestly, like the way I break it down, you kind of get money on all three, the singles, the lots, sets, runs, and then the bulk. You know what I mean? Whereas some people will look at those, sets, lots, runs, stuff like that as bulk. I take that stuff out. So like, I can kind of value a collection higher than what it actually is. You know what I mean?
Dude, I love it, man. That's great. It seems like you got it pretty dialed in, but you've been doing it for a long time, so I guess that would make sense. People with experience tend to be experienced. Weird how
Yeah.
that works.
Right.
Shocker, right? So one piece of advice for somebody trying to go full time in comics.
Which is one? Oh man. I mean, dude, I'll give you three real quick. You got to be self motivated. Self motivated is the biggest thing right from the start. You got to be self motivated. You got to wake up every day. You got to do it. You got to grind. That's the biggest thing, and a lot of people don't have that. And it's easier when you're passionate about something like me. Like for me, this is as good as it gets. Honestly, like I don't think I want to be doing anything else. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
like just staying self motivated, that's huge. Consistency is also number 2. That consistency for me is everything. That is the biggest thing. I don't wanna list 200 comics one day and then nothing for a week. I wanna, like I said, list 40 a day, and then I'm good on that, and, um, yeah, I don't know if I guess knowledge could be thrown in there. Number 3, knowledge is key, man. Just knowing when to buy, knowing the prices, knowing everything like that. That's huge. An honorable mention, let's just say, I mean, being honest, just being an honest person, be a good deal, be somebody that people can trust and know, they're getting exactly what they're buying from you. That's huge as well. So there's 4, man.
For sure. And that last one, dude, especially, man, because all we have is our name,
Yep,
um,
yep. It's
period.
huge.
And just like you go to this McDonald's on this street and they're trash, you're never gonna go there again.
Yeah.
And you're gonna buy your cheeseburger from somebody else. Or maybe not because you don't like hamburgers. I don't know.
Right, right.
So
And
what's the biggest
part of that reason is like, like why it's hard for me to get like an employee is because of my brand. Like if I make a mistake, it's me. It's on me. Like if they make a mistake, I feel like that'd be harder for me to like have to deal with. Like I want my brand to be okay. You're getting exactly what's described. You're buying exactly. You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it shipped perfectly to you, and you're gonna have no worries about it. Whereas like if I have an employee, I'd have to train them and do all this, but at the same time, you still don't know if they're gonna care as much about as they're not going to
Right.
100%.
No, of course not. Yeah,
So
it's not theirs.
like, that's the biggest thing for me about getting an employee because, I'm only going to be able to go so high by myself. You know what I mean? But,
Yeah.
I've thought about getting an employee and, that could be the next step. But, at this time, I'm still not feeling overwhelmed or anything like that. So, I'm loving what I'm doing. So I'm still good where I'm at.
Do you use AI or anything to help you along with your day or anything like that?
No, absolutely not.
No.
I thought you were gonna ask about AI, lister, like an AI lister. That's what I
Well,
thought you were gonna
sure.
say. As far as AI lister goes, like, and I've had a couple meetings with eBay. Like they reach out to me like every once in a while, and I meet with like those people, and they do kind of interviews with me, and I ask what's going on. And the last one was kind of about AI listing and everything like that. And I want nothing to do with that because you know I list 40 a day. And the big thing is, oh, you can list 500 comics in a couple hours or whatever. And I just think to myself, then you gotta ship them. You know what I mean? And dude, I don't wanna ship $2, $3 comics. Like that's
Yeah.
the last thing I want to do. It'd start feeling like whatnot for me, where I wasn't having fun with it anymore. Like
Yeah.
when I'm listing, I like to look through the book. I like to, like, hey, I want to read this random page here. Like that's what I like about it. I don't want to just, something taking photos for me, doing a description for me. If I'm buying on eBay and it's an AI description, I won't even buy it. I won't even look at it honestly because it gives you no information on what that item actually like is, like the flaws of it. Like, if I'm writing something, oh, this has a crack corner or something like that. AI is not going to say that. You know what I mean? So
No,
these people that give like generic listings for these AI, and I'm sorry if you do it. I don't even know if you do it or not, but like I just hate the generic description on AI. And like I said, as far as like like selling in bulk like that, that just does not sound fun on the back end for me. It would be
for
terrible.
sure.
Honestly.
No, yeah, I've seen. I know exactly what you mean. I don't do that because I'm the same way, man. I'm either selling graded cards where it is what it is,
Yeah,
or
well, that makes sense. Yeah,
that makes it easier. But even with raw cards, I mean, like I sold one today. Now it's on Facebook and it's different and all that, but I have close up, high definition. I pride myself on pictures,
mhm,
um, and it's disclosed, and it has to be because
yeah,
it's my name.
yeah,
I don't want it to go to somebody I don't know or to a friend, and they get there and they're like, bro. Now, first of all, rule number one in sports cards online is assume all raw cards will not gem.
yeah,
100%, right?
right,
But we don't hide shit, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
I mean, people do. I would never. So, no,
yeah.
I
I
was
do
just
it.
curious because, like, what if they had an AI robot that could do something for you? Would you be interested? Because, like, I get it, man. Like, Bree's dad has the same problem with employees. That they can be great, but they never can be him because they don't. They're not. They didn't build it.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
what do they care if they wreck the truck or whatever? Or if they make a mistake? It's Gary's name. It ain't theirs. So,
yeah, right, right.
um, I understand that. Uh, I don't know. I know for me, like using certain facets of AI, but it's more for like my like ADHD brain to help me kind of stay on task, as
Mhm,
opposed,
mhm.
it seems like you got that pretty dialed in.
I
So,
haven't dived into AI as much as I probably should, but, as far as, like, listing and doing the bulk listing, because that's the
mhm.
big thing right now is eBay there's these all these companies that have these AI listers right now, and you're gonna start seeing a lot more of that here soon, but,
Oh yeah.
eBay's gonna buy one, and they're gonna have their own and everything like that, but, like, like I said, like, I'm already, doing enough where I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and, if I had maybe some kid shipping all the orders, maybe that's a possibility down the line,
Hmm.
but that also means, hey, I gotta get a warehouse if I'm gonna be listing that much, you know what I mean? You
Right.
you gotta get that comes with, like, scaling, like, much, much higher. And,
Yeah.
right now I'm happy where I'm at. So I'm not gonna mess around with AI with listing or whatever. And when you list every day like I do on eBay, like, dude, I'm fast. Like I said, I can do
Yeah.
25 listings and ship the orders in under 2 hours every single morning. So I mean, it's especially if it's like the same title, man, I can rip those listings out in like a minute each. You know what I mean? So
Dude, that's awesome, man. Because I know just descriptions alone would take forever, and
yeah,
it's
right.
tedious, and a lot of this, the whole back end of hobby related stuff or anything is there is the glorious part where it's like, yeah, cool, I made all this money. In your case, a good amount of money, but they forget, yes, he cleared 300, but he also spent 7 days a week
Yeah.
getting up at 5 in the morning.
Yep. Yep.
There's a part that people forget. You don't just, Michael Jordan wasn't the greatest because he just was. He got
For
up
sure.
and he shot free throws. You know what I mean? Like
No. No.
it's wild. So we don't want robots. We don't want AI listers. You're probably going to be too mean to your boys to let them do it. So what is next for Chill Comics?
I can't wait till my kids get, old enough to haul around those long boxes. They're getting heavy for me.
For sure.
2026 is probably going to be another growing year. I've grown 4 years in a row now, which is nice. Um, this is the first full year both my kids are in school. So this is going to be a big year for me. After that, I'll probably hit like a plateau where, maybe start buying, bigger things, who knows, I think the biggest collection that I've bought in 2025 was like 15 grand. It wasn't anything like huge, So
That's
like I'm
big.
I'm buying like these collections that are, that's still a lot of money, but it's not like I'm not buying like these six-figure collections or anything like that. So, I'm just buying a lot and buying consistency, but the goal would be to, retire Jen if she wanted that. If we came to a point where, I was making good enough money where she could kind of help with the business and that would be like the all-time goal, obviously. But right now I'm just, concentrating on growing more
Dig it.
and making this year my best year yet.
For sure. Well, it seems like every year you're stepping it up.
Yeah.
Where can everybody find Chill Comics?
Yeah, so on eBay, I'm Chill Comics One. I also own the Chill Comics, name on eBay as well, but that was an old store I started a long time ago. But Chill Comics One, that's where my store is on eBay. Chill Comics LLC on Instagram, but I don't post as much on Instagram anymore. Trying to limit social media a little bit more, but that's where you can find me.
You don't feel like it'd be beneficial to be out there? Like, cause I mean, you know, uh, I think the first person that hears this dude's, slanging 500K in comic books, they're going to want to know more,
Yeah,
maybe want to buy something from you
no, like I basically what I used to do on Instagram was and even TikTok is I would put um everything I listed, the 25 that I would list from home every single day, I would go through and take a video of and post it on my Instagram. I did that for probably 8 months straight every single day. And it never really got anything. It never really got traction. It was more so my post on explaining something I got in or explaining something about this comic that gets more views and stuff like that. Like honestly, like I'm basically showing it on Instagram for you to go on eBay and buy it. Nobody wants to go, do that.
yeah,
They basically want to buy it right there on Instagram. And I don't want to sell on Instagram. I want to just sell on eBay because I
yeah.
don't want to do double work. And I do get
Sure.
people who reach out to me, hey, you got this in your store, and I will, sometimes do that, but it has to be, like over a certain value, or if it's not, it's just not really worth, the extra time to do it for me.
I dig it, man. Well,
Yeah.
dude, I can't say thank you enough for doing this. And I mean, like,
Yeah, man.
it's truly inspiring. I'm every quarter I'm leveling up in what I'm doing, and not for cards per se, but my brand as a whole, as we really move into a lot of this a lot more. But just seeing, dude, what to be able to leave a shop that you were at like that, and
Mhm.
dude, that is just beyond impressive. So like, and
Yeah.
I truly mean it. It's badass. Like, and it's just the way I told my son this morning, and the way I must have looked, dude. envy is a bad word, but it's in a good way. Like, dude,
Yeah,
that's
right.
it's motivational. That's a better
Yeah,
word.
yeah, I appreciate
So
that, man. Thank you. Like, I like hearing that kind of stuff because, I work by myself. I don't get to really talk to people. I don't really get to see, kind of what people like see what I'm doing. Nobody really gets to see that kind of stuff. And it's been a grind for me and everything like that. But like, dude, like I said, man, this is as good as it gets for me. This is what I love to do, and it's just awesome.
dig it. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet, man. Well, dude, thanks so much. Like I said, you guys need some comic books, man. Hit up Chill Comics. He's got it all. And make sure you leave a good review
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
for sure.